on, everybody? We are back for another edition of the Wrestling Heroes and Insiders podcast. You know what it is. I am DeSean Whipdog Whipple, and I am here with my partner.
Devastating Daryl Pace in the news center, the control center again.
Devastating Daryl Pace. He's like our Conrad Thompson right here. That's what he does. He's the stat guy, and I'm the energy guy. Y'all know what it is. Y'all been following us long enough. So, normally we bring an amazing wrestler on the show to talk. But this week, it's going to be different. Daryl, who are we talking to this week?
This week is going to be very important. I think it's a good show because, you know, we've seen Tough Enough, but we've seen kind of that celebrity version of wrestling and how you break it into the business. But we're going to actually deep dive into it with our special guest this week.
Who?
You.
What's my name?
What's your name?
What's my name, man?
What's your name?
Oh, man, all right. You don't even know how the catchphrase goes. It's what's my whip dog. All right, I'm joking. But so good, man. Let's go ahead. Whatever we can talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it because I think it's a big thing. Because we see, like I said, we've seen Tough Enough. We've seen those shows. We've seen Hulk Hogan's how to break into wrestling. But that's not the real deal. I mean, that's not how the average Joe has gotten into this business. So I want to take you back a little bit. I want to first understand your mentality going in. You know, what your thought process was before you entered the business, right? Take it back a step. So first, growing up, you got into enjoying wrestling. What was what type of wrestling? What programs? What did you get involved into? And what caught your eye? Just to kind of set the stage.
Okay. Well, since you asked, we can start off like this. Growing up, I've always been a huge wrestling fan. I can remember back to about 85. I think pre-WrestleMania. My uncle used to watch pro wrestling, and so I used to just kind of be up underneath him watching WWF. Being up here in the Detroit area, we got to see WCW, but NWA, but that was a little bit later on. And it was on like another channel that we didn't really have. But WWF, World Wrestling Federation, was pretty much on all the time. I don't know what drew it to me. I think initially it was just a connection with me and my aunt, but just watching those larger-than-life guys with personality. Even when I was a little guy, I knew even though I was going to be a big dude, I was going to be a little extra in my energy. And to me, Hogan was it. We've had other guests on the show, and they've already told you how they felt. But to me, Hogan was it. I loved his energy, and it popped through the screen. And I just wanted to be that, man. Obviously, growing up in the hood, we told play basketball, do music, things of that nature. But I always wanted to be a wrestler. I went on to WrestleMania 3, 1987, at the Pontiac Silverdome. I was one of the 93,000 people there. And the moment he slammed Andre, dropped the leg, 1, 2, 3, and I saw the emotion. I know what I felt. I know what the people in the audience felt. And yeah, after that, man, I was hooked. And that's what I want to do. I want to be a wrestler, even though I didn't know how, because the business was closed back then. I knew that's what I wanted to do.
You know that's what you want to do. Again, Hogan's a big man, wrestles a big man style. You know, he wrestled a lot of big men. I mean, that's just the way it was back then. And looking up to Hogan in that way, is that the same style too that you wanted to be, that big man style when you're thinking about flying around? Like, what was that style that that really that you wanted to imitate?
Well, it's funny you asked that. As I go forward, and I know we're going to be jumping around in this story, and let me fix my light a little bit. Hold on. For the people that's watching the video, I didn't know about the big man, little man style. I just saw that when Hogan dropped the leg, we reacted. When Macho dropped an elbow. So maybe those big moves did just pop me. I wasn't a huge Ric Flair, Bret Hart guy. I know that's going to make a lot of people mad, but it just, I didn't start respecting their work till later on. I was Hogan. I was Warrior. I was Undertaker. So to answer your question, initially, yeah, I expected to be just like that. Fast forward to being about 14 or 15 in high school, I'm playing football at Cass Tech. By this point, the NWOs come out. Hogan's past the red and yellow time. It's the black and white. And I'm the hugest NWO fan. And I'm still for life. I'm 20 years later, I'm still for life. And even still, I was captivated by the energy. I always liked the way they could just make people move. Not to sound too corny, because I don't know how it's going to sound, but growing up, I was really nerdy and shy. I didn't have the whole over-the-top thing that I got going on now. But the only time I did feel comfortable and feel at home was at a wrestling show. I felt like I could be as loud as I can be. I could be as wild as I can be. I could be in the audience and I could chant and get people in the other audience to, you know, say the same thing. So I felt like I was at home. I used to do a 438 hotline, which was like a phone number you could call in, and we would give out little wrestling tips. Me and my homeboys, we called ourselves Whipdog Inc. And all this is as teenagers, man. Even went on to be a part of a teenage wrestling organization. Didn't know nothing about what I was doing, but yeah, went on to do that, man. So that's how it all started. Then we kind of slid into the business, man.
No, that's great to know. So you started off, you seen the big man, you seen the WWF, the big guys. Then, you know, you start migrating to WCW. So, you know, what's the transition? You start seeing some of the NWA stuff, some of the Vader stuff. I know you said not the early NWA stuff, but now we're talking about late 80s, early 90s. We got Vader, we got Bam Bam, we got some of these other guys start to come up, and then of course we get into the NWO, you know, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. You know, who are you in those 90 years, you know, who are you gravitating to now that Warrior and Hogan are kind of, you know, waning, at least at the beginning of the 90s?
Right. Well, it's funny you said about NWA. I actually did start seeing a little bit, because I remember Magnum TA. I saw the Freebirds. Because NWA used to come on locally, Channel 7. They had a program called Spotlight. Came on at like 12:30 in the morning, but sometimes I was a wrestling fan, just like Saturday night's main event. We figure out a way, even as a little guy, to sneak and watch wrestling. But yeah, as we go forward, I start watching Vader, I start watching Bam Bam, and I start seeing these big guys do moves too. Now I'm like, man, because keep in mind, I said I played football, so even though I was a big dude, I was really athletic for my size. I was doing stuff some of them other cats couldn't do on the football field. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I was 290 pounds and I could dunk a basketball. You know what I'm saying? I had about a 38-inch vertical. Not now, but at that point, I had about a 38-inch vertical. So I was like really moving. You know what I'm saying? So I start seeing more and more big guys. So it kind of start transitioning into maybe I could be a big man, but do other stuff as well if I ever do get in the business. Keep in mind, I still don't really know how to get in the business in high school, but it's really starting to circle in my head. And just like I told you, we were running an NWO thing in school, about to get kicked out of school because we were jumping on people just like the NWO. We had belts all through high school at Cass Tech. I mean, they called my mama, left voicemails, and for the young people, voicemail on the answer machine. So you could go delete it because it went to the house phone back then. It ain't like now. So I would run home and try to delete the message before my mama got it. Man, we about to get kicked out. So, but yeah, even then I remember asking my coach, there's a teenage wrestling group. Do you mind if I go do some stuff with them and have a wrestling match? And the coach like, no, man, you can't do no wrestling. What are you talking? You black anyway. What are you talking about? So that was the first time I tried to think that, well, maybe we really weren't supposed to do wrestling, you know.
So now, in high school, how big are you? How tall are you? What's your height?
Woo! I was up there already. I used to claim 6'5", but I was about 6'3" and 3/4. I was about 6'4".
Oh man! So you 6'3". You're athletic.
3/4. So don't get the 3/4.
In 3/4, 6'3" and 3/4. You're athletic. Football. Now, what about now wrestling? Did they offer it a catch? Did you ever think about, hey, what about this? You know, the amateur style Greco-Roman wrestling. You know, anything thoughts?
Unfortunately, they did not offer amateur style wrestling in high school, and I still don't think the Detroit public schools offer that, which is a shame because there's a lot of guys that would like to do something. Everybody's not built for football. Everybody's not built for basketball. Hell, I only played football because I'm looking for the basketball coach, and he wasn't downstairs, and the football coach was there. He was like, oh, you one of the big fellas that's scary. So you don't want to play football. So he tested me. So I didn't really even want to play football, but I only played because he tested me. Ended up playing for 2 seasons.
Uh-oh. We lost you. You ended up playing for.
Oh, I'm good. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. So yeah. So fast forward from there, yeah, we like I said, going through high school doing the NWO thing. But in 12th grade is where it really hit me. At this point, I'm getting besides wearing the t-shirts, I mean, I'm a total mark. But besides wearing the t-shirts and the magazines and every WWF CD that came out, WWF the Music Volume 1 through whatever, I was in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated. And if you look through the whole magazine through the back, they had like where you could order different things. And they said, order a book. I ordered a book called How You Can Get Into the Exciting World of Pro Wrestling. The book was like $12.95, and the book got shipped to my house. This is a little pamphlet. It wasn't huge at all. I remember my mother getting the mail before I did, and she was like, I know you ain't serious about getting into this, and just handed me the book. But I go through it. I read every chapter, because keep in mind, I said at this point, you really don't know how to get in the business. It shows me reading the book how serious it is getting in business, but it also showed me about how to even get to the wrestling schools. So it says about 30 different wrestling schools in the back of the magazine. I start calling them up, realizing wrestling schools are not cheap. You know what I mean? But I end up saying, yes, I'm looking through them. I find one that actually was local, a gentleman named Canadian Destroyer Dog Chevalier, who also worked with Scott D'Amore. And they trained most of the local guys here. Zach Gowen, Rhino, a lot of the guys you see on Impact today, Johnny Bravo, who we've had on the show, a lot of them were trained and did some work with Doug Chevalier.
Now, when you're doing your research, you said wrestling schools aren't cheap. So this is the late 90s, right? What do you mean by not cheap? What does it cost to get trained? And what do they say they're going to offer you for those dollars?
At that point, because even Shawn Michaels had a school called the Texas Wrestling Academy at that point. Schools ranged from $2,500 to $5,000. Al Snow had a school called Body Slammers Gym in Lima, Ohio. And they pretty much offer you the basics. Now, granted, just like anything else, wrestling is the carny world. And if you know what the term carny means, that means just like them carnivals, they're going to work you. It's a business, so they're going to make their money. So a lot of those guys would bring in whoever could pay that money, train them, or say they was trained, and never get them any matches or whatnot. But what they would say, they would teach you of how to bump and how to bump, the psychology of a match, the promo game, which is now probably one of the most important. Well, it was, so they start writing all the scripts for them. But for during that era, the promo was probably just as important as your ability to do your wrestling matches. So pretty much that's what they would teach. Each school ranged. Some schools range from 2-month programs. Some were 6 months to a year.
So your $5,000 stretch is dependent. So it could be 2 months or more. But you're coming out. You said basically minimum is $2,500. $2,500
Yes.
for $5,000. That's a huge commitment for a young guy. Now that's back then. Do you know how much now it costs on average? With inflation these years.
Put them out there, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And we'll touch base on this a little bit later. Back in 2010, Florida Championship Wrestling, before it turned into NXT, was charging people $1,000 just for a 3-day tryout. So not only did you have to submit your stuff to them, and that's why I said the business is a bit of a work. To the people that don't know what work is, obviously something that's contrived, they put together, you know what I'm saying? It's because, again, I'm sending you my stuff, you're saying, yeah, you're good enough to come try out. By the way, it's $1,000. And if I bring in 50 people to try out for one weekend, come on. Well, how much money did we just make? You're a mathematician. You know what I mean? So, yeah, and that was, like I said, so I and I know at that point, I don't know what they do now over at NXT, but I know at that point, Florida Championship Wrestling, who back then was a subsidiary of WWE, you paid for a beginner's class, an intermediate class, and a finals class. So you were paying a couple grand each class for 12-week classes.
Wow. Now, when you join up with your class, you know, we're talking, you know, taking the time back. Is this during the week? Is it during the weekend? You know, you working another job, you're going to school. Like, what's going on? Like, how's it? You know, what's the time commitment? You know, for these classes.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because it's funny, and that's when I actually met you during my time at Michigan State University. Is when I was going through my training. So I started that summer right out of high school. So I'm 17, 18. I started my training right then. We had to go 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And we had to go for 4 hours a day. So what's that, 12 hours of training a week. Luckily, I found a school that was only about 45 minutes from me. So that wasn't too much of a travel. But at that point, also, like I said, in the fall, I was going to Michigan State. And I was still training. So I'm going to classes in the morning, going home, trying to do some homework, then going to class. Probably why I had to end up finishing at Wayne State, not Michigan State, because I was doing too much training and not enough Michigan State schooling, man.
Wow. So that's a half. Again, you're 12 hours, and that's not, like I said, you got school, you got work, or whatever else you got going on. That's a huge commitment, you know, coming in.
As far as explaining distance, to people that don't know, Michigan State is in East Lansing, Michigan, which is like mid-Michigan. And my training school was down here in Wayne. And I lived in Detroit. So essentially, it was like me driving past Detroit another 30 minutes every couple days. Every day. I'm coming back to the dorm at 12, trying to do some homework, and then get up and be in class at 8 in the morning.
Oh.
It was rough, man. It was rough. We're going to lie to you. It was rough. But it was my passion. I loved it to death. And I do not regret it. And I would have did it again.
Now you come in, you start with school. Like, and I don't know what conceptions you have. I don't know if at that time Mick Foley's book was out or not. I don't know if you saw Dynamite Kid's book or any of those books. So you coming in, you know, you get started. So how do they start you off? Like, you know, is there you know, what's day one look like? So to kind of to get you an idea of what's going on.
Well, before we even tell you about day one, let me tell you about when I first meet these guys. They have a show that was actually relatively close to my home in Detroit on 8 Mile. It was called the Pig or something. And, you know, and that group they had Edge back before he was Edge. He was Sexton Hardcastle. He was working in that promotion, Christian. I was Christian Cage. So I go to one of their shows. It's in a little bar. Now, keep in mind, I've called them. I told them I want to train, but I want to meet these guys. I see it, and there's only about 50 people in the audience. But I make the first cardinal mistake as a green bean being a rookie. I walked right up to him and said, man, I could do this. Put me in the ring. And I ain't trained nothing. I'm a total mark that ain't did nothing but watch it on TV. And when I tell you the level of disgust on the trainer's face to where, excuse my language, you could tell he just want to say, fuck you, because I just disrespected what these guys have been doing. Luckily, one of the other guys that was really cool pulled me to the side, was like, man, whatever you do, don't do that. Don't do that. Respect what these guys do. Just because you watch it on TV, it is nowhere near, you don't just go in there and do it. You know, we think we can, but it's not that simple. So fast forward, I do start training. You know, again, I'm ready. I'm geeked up. I think I'm going straight in the ring. He tells me to put my clothes on. He let me step in the ring, and he said, get out the ring. I'm like, what are you talking about? I had to learn chain wrestling. Chain wrestling is lockups, go behinds. I literally had to do lockups for a whole month because you want everything to look crisp. So before I did a bump, before I did anything, I literally had to just lock up, put people in wrist locks, because you had to learn how to wrestle first. Actually wrestle. Not be a sports entertainer, because all that stuff is down the road, but you had to learn how to wrestle first. So my first month, I did not step foot back in the ring. He let me touch the ring just to say I touched it, then he made me get out. And I'm sitting on the side while the vets were working in the ring all the time.
Well, so they're taking you through holds. There again, you see that ring there. Now, is anybody? Now you hear the Hulk Hogan story, right? That he goes in the wrestling school, gets his leg broke as basically as a way to basically test him out to see if he'll come back. And that story we've heard over and over multiple different guys. And anybody try to lean into you a little bit to kind of see if you're going to be weak and not come back. Anything like that happen?
Absolutely. And partially it was my fault. I go in there because I'm still a big dude. So I'm like, and I don't play football and all this stuff. And I'm pretty strong at that point. You know what I'm saying? I didn't understand that wrestling, even though I've been watching 100 years, didn't realize it was a work. So I go in there, even when I'm locking up, I'm really snug with the guys. I'm kind of tight with them. So you're taught if somebody don't respect you, you got to make them respect you. So they definitely would stiffen me up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? The chops were a little bit stiffer than they probably should have been. The lockups were a little bit tighter. The headlock, they was grinding that head. The wrist lock, and keep in mind, these guys are trained vets. So I'm in the wrist lock, but and I'm held by a guy that's 5'10", 190 pounds, but he knows how to manipulate the body. I'm locked up. I don't even know how to reverse it. So it definitely was a teaching lesson that they gave me, a level of respect.
Man, that's awesome, because we've always heard, the Stu Hart story where he grabs a guy's arm and he's putting it behind his head and doing all this stuff, again, to kind of test you out. And that's just something that, coming in, you'll deal with. And you talked about respect. One of the mistakes you made, coming in was, oh, I could do this. And people not liking that too much. Well, what other respect lessons have you learned as far as, the way to conduct yourself in the locker room, during these training sessions?
No matter what, you always shake everybody's hand. Even if you don't like the guy, you shake his hand. Back in the day, we had this little wrestler handshake, which was like a little soft, you just touch the fingertips of the guy. And back then, the reason why they did that was the guy could tell if you were going to be stiff in the ring by the way he shook his hand. If you touch his hand really light, say, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you, whatever. Okay, he's going to be cool. If you were a guy that's like, give me a hand, they was like, oh, this guy thinks he's tough. We'll handle it in the ring. So that was definitely to shake your hand, shake everybody's hand, and say hello to everybody. Not to mention, when you're new, tear down that ring, help them put that ring up. I probably put the ring together the first 6 months that I did this. Like I said, my trainer was training over here, but he was from Canada. So I was going back and forth between here and Canada all the time. If he needed to go take the ring for a show, Whip, I had to go with him. And it would take 2-3 hours to put the ring up, 2-3 hours, take the ring down. Sometimes he made me drive him over there in my car. I'm a young boy. I done got a new whip with a lease on it, and I'm the one got to drive him. But it was all part of the, And if you outside the wrestling world, you might not understand the paying your dues thing, but that was part of it. A lot of people got matches that were new and green because they was putting the ring together. They came to a show that they weren't booked on and asked somebody, hey, I got my stuff. Do you need help with anything? A promoter might say, you know what? Somebody missed. Come on, get in there. Oh, we got a battle royal. Get in there. Even if you just go in there for 5 minutes and get thrown off the battle royal, you show that you're willing to do anything to get an opportunity. And that's really all you can ask for. So anybody listening to this, that's what I'll tell you. Put that ring together. Stay as long as you can. I trained with Dan Severn for a hot second out there in Coldwater. And Dan Severn really got on me too. It was me and my buddy Steven Summers, who I later teamed up with in a team called the Canadian Bad Boys, and our buddy Parker Kennedy, who was Damon Starr. And we went to a show. And after that, Dan Severn invited us to Coldwater to train a couple times because he liked it. We go there at 6. We think training is over 8, so we're acting like we're tired and we want to leave. And Dan pulled us to the side and said, in all my years of MMA and wrestling, I never asked to leave. I stayed to the end. You should, if you want this, you do anything possible. You don't say, oh, I'm done. No, because there's somebody out there that's watching tape. There's somebody out there that's going to be in this ring to 10, 11 o'clock to where I got to put them out. So he said, do you have a ring at your house? I said, no, I don't, sir. He said, exactly. So this is the only time I'm letting you train in my house for free. And this is what you're asking to leave. And that was a very valuable lesson I learned as well. Don't ask to leave. You go till they tell you to go home.
So you basically say it's a breakdown, right? You're hungry, but you also have to be humble, and it's a balance, right? Because if you're hungry, I want this now. I'm excited. Give me now. I want it today. Give me something. I can do it. But at the same time, I have to have that hunger. But what you also said, I got to balance that with being humble, waiting my turn, which is hard, and just being respectful.
Especially because a lot of guys that are wrestlers, well, some of the independent guys are not, but a lot of the guys, they came from either football backgrounds or they came from something else where they were amazing. They were the top guy. If you got an all-American football player, everybody tell him how great he is, and he goes into the wrestling world and they tell him, put this ring together. He's like, what? But you got to be humble. Because once the guys like you, once you can deal with whatever, you get people to take you under your wing, you're good. You're out of here. You got all the matches and everything else in the world, all the learning you can get.
Now, how long you're going through training, how long before you have a match? Like, what's the build? How long are you training before they say, hey, you know what, we got something for you?
I want to say at least 3 months. I believe there was a show, and I have the tape, but unfortunately we can never show this tape because, not just because it was terrible, but it was because there was a guy, and I still do some work with him to this day. His name is John Karuba. He used to work at a home with troubled youth. Okay. So they did a closed show just for them. My trainer didn't think I was ready yet, but John talked him into letting me have a match, and I forever will be humbled by John. Anything John ever needs me to do, I will do it. I teamed up with a guy named Jerome Pruitt in a tag team match, and we actually ended up going over in our first match against a guy named Mojo, rest in peace, and King. And it was funny because I got pulled to the side and someone said, Whip, you know the only reason they let you win in a as a rookie, the green guy, is because this match is not to be recorded and nobody will ever see it. Because normally, as you know, the green guys will go, unless you're a superstar. You're gonna take a lot of L's in your first couple years. You're gonna do a lot of jobs. I don't care how big you are.
You counted a few lights in those early days.
Oh man, but we actually we did a tag match, and I was in a battle royal. And just again to show you, and I'll show. In the battle royal, me not being humble, I throw a guy out because I'm talking junk, but not in the wrestling world. Like, I'm cocky, and when you're a wrestler, there's a difference between being cocky in your character and cocky in real life. So I throw the guy out. I'm standing over the rope. I'm talking junk to him, yelling. I even probably should have spit on him because I don't even know the difference between being a face and a heel, what to do in the ring at that time. I'm a face, and I'm about to spit on the guy. Somebody comes up, grabs my legs, and flips me right out. I bumped my head on the ring. I'm through. All because I wasn't being humble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, a very valuable learning lesson was taught that night.
And that's a good point. So you're learning, you learn the moves, they get you in the ring, you have some matches, but who are you? And what I mean by that is, how are you developing as a personality at this point? Do you know who you are? Or you just kind of, like you said, maybe I don't know, I'm a face man, I don't know what I'm doing. How does that develop? How do they help you structure your character, who you are?
That's a very good question, man. And as you know, we had D-Ray on the show before, and he said it took him many years before he knew he was D-Ray. And even then, he ended up switching it up. Honestly, at that point, your trainer can teach you the moves. They can teach you to be over the top, but they can't teach you the it factor. They can teach you how a face and a heel works, but I was a generic face and heel. I literally just had a whip shirt, not unlike the one I have on right now, but I just had on a whip shirt, and that was it. You know what I mean? I came out, When I was a face, yay! When I was a heel, shut up! That was it. I didn't really have an understanding of me as a person because I wasn't totally confident in what I was doing yet. But in a way, when you start, they kind of want that because they just want to see if you can listen. If I'm working a guy who's a veteran, because the guy who's been in the ring the longest calls the match. Now, if you've both been in the ring for pretty much the same amount of time, the heel will call the match. But if you are a total green bean and you got a guy in the ring with you 10 years, you listen to everything he says. If you don't get anything in but a clothesline or a back body drop or a one pinfall and kick out, you listen to him. But they just want you to listen at that point. It was many years down the road before I started really being confident in this whole whip thing and what I was going to do with it.
So, and that's going to take me to my next point. So you're learning, how do you learn when you start talking about calling a match, right? And who's going to call a match, putting a match together. How do you learn? Well, like, what's that process? You know, is it, like you said, is it somebody else kind of teaches you along the way? Is it somebody writes down a whole script, you call in the ring? What's going on? How do you put a match together, especially these early stages of your career? Where's the match come from?
At that time, I'm going to tell you, I didn't know. Because it was very unfortunate, rest in peace to him as well. On my very first singles match against a Yukon Braxton, rest in peace to him, my trainer died the next morning. The day after, I had my so I kind of was like put out there on a plate, you know what I'm saying? After that, I kind of had to which is why I got led to Dance 7 and start trying to learn from other people because he did pass after probably 6 months of my training. But with that being said, as far as putting a match together, I really was still learning, so I did follow the guys. But over time, you realize there's the hot open, the shine, the cutoff. You know what I mean? You put the heat on them. There's aspects in the match. I'm not going to go too deep on each one of those. I'll let the people look that up. But like I said, once the heel puts the heat on the guy, then you got a false comeback. Then you put some more heat on him. You actually come with the real comeback, then the finish. There's like 7 elements of a match. Now you can put them in different spots during the match to try to give it different energies. But those 7 things will always get you, if you do them correctly, some type of reaction. Now as far as me trying to put them together, I had no idea. I mean, you telling me do a false hope. I'm like, so you want me to come and hit you with a power bomb? No, it doesn't work like that. All I'm supposed to do is he's been beating me up, putting the heat on me. I just come back, punch, 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 and then he cuts me off and hits me with a clothesline. But in my mind, no, it's time for me to come back, power bomb, come on the top rope with a moonsault. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know. And we call that psychology. Understanding what to do and when to do it. Especially being a big guy, we can do a lot less. Going back to what we were saying earlier about me learning different things, because I was athletic, I started trying to do a little bit too much. A lot of the guys, when I first started, the promoters literally wanted me to be headbutt like Bobo Brazil, you know what I mean? Bear hug, body slam. Well, no, I'm whip. I want to come on the top rope. I'm doing moonsaults. And I was before my time. Doing a lot of stuff. I'm doing drop kicks. I'm doing dives out the ring, from the inside out the ring, all types of stuff, almost luchador stuff. One worker actually said, I bet you Whip wish he was only 5'7", so he could do all this stuff like Ricochet, man. Because I was trying to make myself stand out, which it was good that I was doing them things, but not knowing when to do them was my problem. I used to bump for guys way too much early. It's a little guy hit me with a clothesline, and I'm taking a bump. Well, there was no reason for that. I should have did the Zeus thing. I didn't have to tell you no sale. I could register it, but I should have let it just take me down. So it took me a minute before I even learned some of that stuff.
Well, that's big, because I know that's something that we talk about a lot today. That was a big AEW thing, especially in the beginning, when people are like, wait, it's fantastic moves. People are flipping and they're flying all over the place. But where's the story of that? And you just did a moonsault through 3 tables and then you got up and your opponent got up. And it's like, well, that you didn't sell anything, you know, and the art of selling is a huge part of that as well.
Absolutely. We had Kong on the show, and that's one thing was Kong was saying with the guys. He tries to train guys, and like I said, if you ever get to see Kong work, Kong is an amazing big guy. Kong can do all types of athletic stuff, but he does it to make sense. You know, yes, he can come on the top rope with all types of stuff, but when he come on the top rope, it's over. It's over. It's not him coming off the top rope and then you kicking out and then you're going to hit him with a power. No, it's not happening. He's still a big man that happens to do cruiserweight type stuff, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so that was part of the psychology. And I'm going to tell you, the psychology of wrestling, understanding when and where to do things is one of the hardest things to learn, but and you're going to always learn it. Excuse me, I'm good friends with Sabu, and he still goes to wrestling school and trains. That's why these guys still train. We had C.W. Anderson. He still goes to the school and trains. This guy's been in the wrestling for 30 years, and they still go to class. You know what I mean? Because you're always learning, especially as we get older. We have to learn how can we still get our reactions, and our bodies might be a little more limited than they were when we were 20. You know what I mean? Because as much as we love Shawn Michaels matches at 47 were not the same matches Shawn was having at 25.
Right.
Shawn was so smart, he could still do stuff, but did it at the right times, if you notice. Even AJ, the phenomenal one, AJ Styles, is still amazing. But compare some of the stuff AJ does now into his WWE stuff. I mean, his TNA stuff. TNA, he was just throwing everything out there. Now, he get 1 or 2 big things. The rest, AJ is doing psychology. He's working the match.
And it's huge, and it's something that people don't appreciate. And I think it's something that, and I don't know why some of the younger talents aren't appreciating it or seeing it, or is it just I want to get my stuff in? Which I got to ask a question about that. I walk into your locker room. I have a match with you, and I say, "Hey, DeSean, this is," and you're the veteran. I'm the new guy. This is what I want to do tonight. Again, this is talking about being humble. How are you going to take that?
Who the fuck is this? Especially if I don't even know you. Who is this? You know, me, I was more the chill guys, so I wasn't the type of guy that was like, Arr. I would just tap my man's like, is this your boy? Some of the other guys were a little bit rough, like D-Ray said about when we had him on, how some of the guys were. Some of the guys would take that as very disrespectful. I one time wrestled King Kong Bundy in Sault Ste. Marie. And I remember coming up to Bundy saying, thank you for that we getting to work together. This, what do you want me to do? I let him ask me, then he said, no, what do you want to get in? Even if you're new, a vet might even say that. What do you want to get in? I was like, what? He's like, what do you do? Let's get it in. I was so shocked and honored that this man that I had seen smash Hogan at WrestleMania 2 was asking me. But I allowed him to be the vet and offer what I can do. And in the match, all I got in, I still remember, he threw me into the corner for the avalanche. I moved, hit the ropes, clothesline once, clothesline twice. He doesn't go down. One more time, a third one, I give him a big clothesline, King Kong Bundy bumps. I remember almost losing it because I don't believe that I just bumped King Kong Bundy. I remember when he said I could bump him in the locker room. I'm like, you sure? He was like, yeah, you're a big guy. Bump me. And even that. So when I got that in, that was enough for me because the crowd went crazy because this unknown guy just knocked King Kong Bundy down, not with a big drop kick, not with no choke slam, with a clothesline. It made me look big. It just as much as I did a million other things, that one clothesline, him going down, and me sounding like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm running around the ring like I just won the match. And all I did was knock him down. So now I got a reaction out of people. So when he comes back and he finally does hit me with the avalanche, now not only did he really beat somebody, he beat somebody that was cocky in the ring. He beat somebody with a little bit of energy, but it didn't totally kill me for the territory. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So now did he get the 5? Did he get the 5?
Oh, you know he did. Hey, I would have been offended if he didn't, man.
Now, a few things, few questions. So, you're working out, again, you're learning the style. Now, this is one that I've always wanted. It's a personal question, especially when you talk about people that work, with folks with different nationalities, different language barriers, Japanese, Mexican wrestling. How do you communicate? I mean, can you actually hear the other guy? I mean, it just seems like there's some stuff like, hold on, what do you say? I mean, you able to work it. How do you work through that?
Well, it's funny you said that. I really only got to wrestle international guys a few times. And sometimes with those guys, you do have to go with feel. Because we do know that, again, that there is like I said, the steps of a match. But, well, let me preface this. My old manager and a foe is deaf, Handsome Johnny Bradford. He's in Edge's book. He was Edge's manager back when he was Sexton Hardcastle here locally. And we used to have to do spots with him. Sometimes you have to pantomime and they'll understand. A worker should understand there shouldn't be a language barrier. We know how to start off a match, even if we don't call every spot. I can't remember nothing, man. That's why I don't even write down stuff for the show, because I don't like to remember stuff. I like to go off the top of my head. A worker should be able to do that. And sometimes, as long as we know where we're going to go for the finish. So let's just say you're a Japanese worker, and we know the finish is, I'm going to throw you against the ropes, you duck the clothesline, hit me with 4 kicks, I throw one more clothesline, duck, you run through, come off the top rope, big cross body block, 1, 2, 3. Even if we're in the back and we practice that, we can practice it still. We might not have to discuss it, but we can practice it. As long as you can remember the finish, everything in the middle, you can work through. I can put you in a headlock and just, I'm wrenching it, and I'm talking to the crowd. So I'm pulling time in. So I know, and as a worker, as I'm wrenching a headlock, at some point, you're going to come back up, and you're going to hit me with those 3 elbows, and you're going to go off, and I'm going to hit you with the big boot and take you down. You know what I mean?
No, that's really interesting.
You know, get kicked out of the world of wrestling, man. Like when Harley Race did that show on NBC, The Secrets of Wrestling Exposed.
With the old lady, right? No, I mean it's really cool, interesting. It's like again, just so how much that goes into a match. I mean, I've heard like the Randy Savage stories. You talk about Savage and Steamboat. It's a perfect match. You watch that, and you just see this is just. I mean, it's one of those things that a little kid, my son, he's not big into wrestling. He'll sit there and see some of that stuff and just be like, just mesmerized. My daughter will be mesmerized, and it's timeless. No matter who you are.
About that match, I had a tryout with Florida Championship Wrestling right before it turned in NXT, and they make all the trainees, and this is 2011, still. So, and the match happened in 87. You have to watch that match. Every trainee that comes from the school, they make them watch Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Macho. They actually were going to have Ricky coach when he instruct that match as the teacher of the class, but he had something to do the weekend. I was there. But yes, they have to watch that match, how they move, how they interacted with the audience, how they did their false hopes, how they got to the finish, how they used the manager, everything. That's the match they make them study.
Yeah, it's a work of art. And when you hear the stories that Randy kind of, basically laid out this whole thing. And I would just, it's just amazing, if you're Steamboat or if you're you, and I say, here it's like a 30-minute match. I'm like, I'm amazed. Like, because I know I couldn't remember that. I can't remember, again, I can barely remember what day it is.
I've heard stories that now there's guys that literally can remember every single spot, because some people call everything. I'm talking about from the lockup to punch you 2 times, kick, like they call everything. That was never my forte, because I know with me personally, if I think that much, then I would have an issue. Then I would forget something later on. But yeah, there's some guys that are just so amazing, they can remember everything. When you see those matches like Ricochet and Will Ospreay, I heard they actually wrote down everything, which is amazing. If you ever saw that match, even though I wasn't a huge fan of the no selling of it, but as far as what they did, the acrobatics of it, they said I heard that they wrote down everything. Now, the only thing I can give them is maybe they had practiced that match so many times It became like the back of their hand, but still.
So, and I know we've talked, Ric Flair has talked about that. So many people, some people he's worked with so many times that he could just probably be blindfolded and know exactly, how to carry it off and how to work with the other person, and it just end up flawless, like something like that.
Oh yeah, but
and I've seen the Ospreay match, and it's beautiful match. Now there's a lot of stuff in there where it's like, okay, come on, sell guys, sell.
Yeah. But I actually learned years ago that a true worker, and I'm not definitely, when I say this, I'm not saying myself, because their guys are 100 times better than I ever was. But a true worker, you can give him a broomstick, and he can make a believable match. And if that sounds crazy, watch some of the stuff Kenny Omega did over there in Japan. As awkward as it was with that little girl, he had that audience popping like this made perfect sense. You know what I'm saying? Kenny Omega had a match with a doll.
I saw the blow dog.
And he had people going crazy like it made perfect sense. And whether I agree with it, whether you agree with it, if he got them fans to pop, if he got them people to spend money on him, you know what I'm saying?
Amazing. How do you take, so too, I know this has been fantastic and really deep for a lot of folks. How do you take care of your body? You're going through a lot of wear and tear. How do you take care of your body? What do you do to keep your, physically yourself together? How much gym time, what's the physical part of it?
Is this, especially in my time when I was going full-fledged, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm retired, but when I was going full-fledged, if we was in the ring practicing 3 to 4 days a week, I was in the gym 4 to 5 days a week too. So I was getting 2 hours a day in the gym. I'm lifting, I'm eating, you know what I'm saying? And I truly never felt like I got my body to the peak level performance that it should have been, but and I still even then was going. You know what I mean? I was getting myself together. When I went to Michigan State, I was like, where is the IM East? Like, I needed to know exactly where the gym was. I actually ended up working at the gym for a hot second at Michigan State. Even when I went to Wayne State, had to find out exactly where the gym was at. What you eat, working out, but even that, as far as being a wrestler, that's only for the physical look. Bumping, and getting in there is the only way your body get right. I've seen guys that were football players that were All-American, you know what I'm saying? But they hit them ropes, they about to pass out. That first bump, because when I was training, at first, it was times I was going to train, it was cold. And all we had in there was a space heater. Imagine being in a warehouse that's frozen, the ring is frozen, and them old-ass space heaters, kerosene space heaters, you laugh because you know what I'm talking about. It ain't doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? And we taking bumps on it, and I'm feeling like I'm dying. The very first couple of days of my training, I was sore to where I didn't know if I was going to go back. You see what I'm saying? Your body does get acclimated to all the bumps. Thankfully, though, me being a larger guy, my bump card was a little bit more extended than some of the other guys because I didn't have to bump a whole lot like some of the other guys did. But even then, the only true training you can get, yes, you got to work out, you got to eat right, but getting in that ring, bumping, working out in that ring. Them guys can do 60-minute matches, not just because they can run cardio, they can go run 30 miles. They were able to do 60-minute Ironman matches because they did three-hour Ironman matches in training.
And then what's the other one? The cardio. You got to be on. Is treadmill. Like, what are you doing to keep your cardio going? Because you're moving. And it's the one business you're moving the entire time, whether you're.
I tell everybody, training. Because the problem is, I have to say it. Wrestlers carry a lot more weight than a lot of other athletes because for the look of being larger than life. So a lot of wrestlers, they're wrestlers that don't do any cardio at all, or they might just be on the treadmill or the elliptical or whatnot, which is all good. But if they have to get in that ring. Even in training, doing 100 Hindu squats, doing tackle, drop down, get up, tackle, drop down, get up, tackle, drop down, get up. Because even if you're running 30 miles, like I was saying, it's not the same as running, falling down, getting up, running again, falling down, leapfrog. You know what I'm saying? It's so many different there's no constants. You're doing so many different variables. You have to do it in the ring. Literally, like I said, we would do 100 Hindu squats. We would do tackle drop down for 20 minutes straight, and then go. Somebody else go. We would do bull in the ring just like in football, where we go and just lock it up, and we just tussle, wrestle each other down, then tag somebody else in, go back in there. All that, you had to do all that stuff, man.
When you got your first class, about how many people were in the class? You remember?
Well, maybe we had 12, 10, 12.
Of those 12 guys, how many made it through the class?
Maybe 3 or 4. Maybe.
So it's the whole college, look to your left, look to your right.
One of my best friends always wanted to be a wrestler. He's since deceased now. Shout out to Tim Solomon. He came to training. He went for about a month and a half. He said it was a financial thing, but I just don't think he was built for wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Because the level of commitment is so serious, man. It, like we already talked about it. It's not only the training, it's the going to the shows. It's the back then we didn't have the internet like these guys got now, where they could just send an email and we had to make a package. We had to make a CD, make a promo pack, put 3 matches, dub it from a tape, put it onto a CD, put it in a manila envelope with your wrestling resume and a headshot. So you had to go to FedEx, get that printed, do all this stuff, and then find addresses and send it out to the post office. So you had to spend so much more money. It was just so much involved with being a wrestler back then. You know what I mean? These guys have an amazing opportunity now. Some of these guys will go straight to NXT and just pay a fee. If you could do it, if people now, if they could do that, I would tell them to do that because you're already in the WWE farm system. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's the best as far as learning to be a worker around the world, but it still gives you a streamline right into their system. But man, we had to go all over the world. I mean, I literally probably wrestled in 20 different states and 2 countries. You know what I'm saying? And it's so much stuff that I don't think there's no, I can't go because my mom's sick to a show. If you booked, I don't care if it's 20 people there. These people paid to see you there. So you got to go. I went from Detroit to Hamilton, Ontario, 4 hours in the snow. You know what I'm saying? Almost getting stopped at the border. Literally, like, it was a snowstorm. We like, and I was in the main event. I'm like, and I literally got there right before my match, so we could call anything. You know what I'm saying? But in the same vein, it was a blessing that I went because the next week I'm online. That match was the Canadian match of the week for that area. You know what I'm saying? So if I don't go, I don't get my name out there in Canada.
And to set the stage, right, that first match, that tag match you had, your first match, what was the payday?
Was it what?
What was the payday?
What was there a payday? A payday candy bar, maybe. That's about it. I think his wife made us some hot dogs.
Okay, fine. Let's not take that match. The first match you got paid, what was the payday?
Man, probably about 20, 25.
25,000. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, right.
2,500.
About $25 maybe.
25. So wait, you telling me I got to spend 2,500 to $5,000. I got to spend 2 months to 6 months in training. So I've already paid money. I'm spending a whole lot of time. I'm in the gym 2 hours a day, every other day. And the other days I'm in a ring, and you're telling me, here it comes. I'm in front of a crowd. I work 30 minutes. I'm taking bumps. I've got bruises. My body's hurting. I get my check, and it's $25.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And again, like I said, the wrestling business it's a scam. It is. It's not in a bad way because it's a business, but the promoter gonna do what he got to do to make sure they get money. The gate was soft, or I had to pay the top guys. That's why it's very important. Again, you pay your dues when you start off, but as you get older, you got to know your value. You have to know your value. You got to be able to tell somebody, no, dog, I'm not doing it. This is my rate. If you can't meet it, no hard feelings. you have to be able to do that as well. But you also got to know exactly where you stand too. You know, if you know that you can't bring anybody in, and you're truly just a body, then you might not deserve anything. You know what I'm saying? But if you know that you're doing something right, you need to be compensated. Going back to, we were talking about knowing your character. I started knowing my character when I was teaming with my partner, Steven Summers, and the Canadian Bad Boys. We were working a thing called we were from Detroit, Ontario, Canada. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of a takeoff of the Detroit Pistons and the Canadian Bad Boys. But with that being said, he did a lot of the talking, but that's when I really started understanding how to put a match together when I was with him. Because I didn't have to do as much because I was in a team, but I was starting to know, man, when we do this, they react this way. Okay, if I put it here, it makes sense. So once me and him broke up and I started being by myself, that's when I started for a group called AWWL underneath the Sheik's son, Eddie Farhat Jr. I was doing a character called Mr. What's My Name, Whipdog Johnson. And I started noticing just the call and response. Just like The Rock doing, if you smell what The Rock is cooking, I would say, what's my name? They said Whipdog. What's my name? Whipdog. It ended up being my catchphrase. Like, it's still my catchphrase, even on my shirts today. Still my catchphrase. But that's when I started really getting confident in what I was doing out there. This just, and I really put the way I act in real life, you know what I'm saying? The partier, the ones that like to have fun, they could be serious, turned it up some, and it was there. So, you know, once I started knowing who I was able to sell Whipdog t-shirts. There were Whipdog signs in the audience. Fans were bringing me little gifts. Fans were inviting me to their house for their birthday parties and stuff, man. It was crazy. I literally, really quick story, was at we were doing an indie show in Jackson. So I was at one of the other wrestlers' houses. He was a heel. And his neighbor was some little kids, and they were really big wrestling fans. So they came over. They was like, hey, Whipdog. Oh, my God, what are you doing with him? Like, what are you doing here? Like, they literally, and I was shook because I don't know what to say at this point. They literally like, why are you in his house? You guys were, but in the same vein, I knew we were doing something right. Then we got the people reacting, even seeing me outside and thinking, man, that's Whip. That's Mr. What's My Name. You know what I'm saying? That means, okay, I'm finally starting to get people to move. I'm getting people to react.
You didn't protect kayfabe there, man. Come on. You should have that guy.
I didn't know what to say. I was like, oh, I got a beer in my hand. I'm sitting next to him. I'm like,
I hate this guy. I don't know why am I here. You're right, kids. Let me get out of here. I'm confused. I'm confused. I'm drunk. I don't know what's going on. But no. I mean, this has been great. I think for the young men, young women out there, you know, who want to really learn about the business, because they're sponges, right? They're watching everything that we watch. Nowadays, they do have the podcasts, they do have the YouTubes and stuff out there. But again, some of that stuff touches on areas. But to really have the time we spent to go deep, you know, guys, listen to what he's talking about. You know, learn the respect for the business. You know, learn the modesty. You know, and humble yourselves and understand that passion and love he's talking about. $25. So now, when you get that $25, you know, we're gonna wrap it up. When you got that $25 check, you didn't stop. You came back the next day.
But you know what? I'm gonna tell you. Even though from the outside, people are like, man, you only got $25. And if I tell people that, they had the same reaction you had. To me, it was it. I was happy because it took this 7-year-old little boy who wanted to be a wrestler. See, and when I start getting emotional about this, man, and I literally get, I get emotional. This is the same 7-year-old little boy that thought about, I want to be a wrestler, did a wrestling show, and got paid to do something that I thought at 7 wasn't even possible. It wouldn't have mattered if it was 2 people there. Somebody actually paying me for that was the most amazing thing. I felt like it was $1 million. I don't know if that makes sense, but I really felt like it was $1 million, man.
Yeah.
And just to fast forward, I had an opportunity. After I had my tryout, I did get to do some extra work with WWE. And even with that, I did one in Chicago at the United Center, and I got to do it again the next day for SmackDown at Joe Louis Arena. And I remember going out there, when we was out there working on the ring and looking up. And that was still, to this day, that was my biggest payday in wrestling. Like back then, like we got like $500 to be an extra both nights. So I got $1,000 to be just to be an extra, which is, man. But anyway, it wouldn't even matter if they would have paid me. But when I tell you this, when I went out there, and even though I'm not on the roster, on the contracted, still, when I sat there and I looked up and I'm like, man, I'm right in the arena with all these WWE wrestlers, the same arena I used to sit out there at and watch these people. 20-some years later, I'm getting paid to be here. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, to the young guys watching this, I'm nobody. You know what I'm saying? Not like that, but understand, work hard, understand, and be humble, but respect every little milestone you got. My life took a whole different path. I did what I did to become a wrestler, and it started taking me into like the other aspects of entertainment. But it had to be the base of my initial dream of being a wrestler, to get the B, C, D, E, F, G. So do not give up, man. You know, and not to mention, if you ever get back there, when I tell you WWE got the best catering ever, man, you ain't never had no food like that. I'm gonna tell you, I knew why they didn't sign me, because I took a carry-out plate home, like 3 boxes. They was like, man, what kind of, so ghetto. But again, just to be, but jokes aside, to be at Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, where I came from, that my uncle took me to at 5. I remember telling myself then, if nothing else ever happens in my life, I'm confident, I'm happy with what I've done in my life. Because there's going to be some little dog that's going to see that and say, man, if he can do it for Mac and B-Wick, I can too. You dig what I'm saying?
I dig it. Man, this has been, I appreciate your time and what you put in to being open to us and basically giving these insights. You know, I know you created a special segment of the show. You know, it was a Ring the Bell, right? And you got 1 minute to talk about, we give the guests a minute to talk about plug stuff. Now, we don't need to plug a lot of stuff because, you know, we are the stuff.
Right.
But if you want to take that 1 minute to give the folks out there that are listening to this, you know, any insights, whether it's a match to watch, whether it's a person to talk to, anything about getting into the business, or if they want to know more information, here's that minute.
All right. Well, I guess I got to ring the bell right now. Well, I'm going to say this. First and foremost, be humble. Be humble. Respect the opportunity that you have been given. Because everybody does not get this opportunity, and everybody will not actually make it to the ring. So respect that, number 1. Number 2, work hard. Work hard. Don't let nobody tell you that you can't be a wrestler. Don't let nobody tell you what you can't do. Number 3, you say who to talk to. Just like you watch our podcast, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna tell y'all, we get these people because we just reach out and talk to them. If you want a show with a star, when I was on shows with stars that were signed and they were on the independent show, I went up and said hello. I picked their brain. Sit under the learning tree. And just because somebody isn't in WWE, but if they've been working for years, pick their brain. Be under the learning tree. Be a sponge. As far as matches to watch, pick a style. Once you know what your style is, now you can start kind of deciding who you want to watch. If you think you're more of an AJ Styles, Shawn Michaels, go back to Shawn in 84 all the way up to 2012, 2013. Watch old AJ when he was at WCW as the Cruiserweight Tag Team Champions in 2000. Watch his progression. Watch Jake the Snake for psychology. Study your craft. Just like you want to be a teacher, just like you want to be anything else in life, study your craft. You have to live this. You have to breathe this. I'm going to say this, I'm going to let it go. Even back then, when I met a girl, she had to understand this was me. If she wasn't with that, I couldn't rock with her heavy because I couldn't be clouded by worrying about other stuff at that time in my life. You know what I'm saying? There are many guys that had to stop wrestling because their girlfriend wanted them to. Not saying you can't have one, but she needs to understand what you do. If you love this, it's everything. It's your life, man. It's your life. That's real. And that's all I got to say.
No, well, thank you, man. This has been a fantastic journey. Again, everybody use this as that first learning tree that you want to sit under. You know, keep this podcast, keep coming back to it, learn everything that the Whip Dog said, and take it to heart. So, this is Devastating Daryl Pace signing off. I'm going to kick it back to.
And I am DeSean Whipdog Whipple. And we will see you next time. You know what to do. Hit us up, Instagram at the Whip Show Podcast, YouTube, the Whip Show Podcast, and on Facebook, the Whip Show Podcast. You can listen to it on Anchor, anchor.fm/the Whip Show. We'll see you next time with another great podcast interview. We out of here.